Okay. Okay. So it's 5 minutes to 5 o'clock, and I am just kind of rousing out of the bed. I had a long day of processing trauma that happened today. Before I got it together to go to the grocery store. I got some social anxiety stuff I'm working through. Also, I've been upstairs listening to American Dad because I'm a huge fan of this cartoon. I'm a huge fan of this cartoon because I feel like the alien character, Roger, really represents this sort of genderqueer ability to transpass gender boundaries that our society desperately needs to examine. But for some reason can't do that super well in human form unless we do it as a joke or as an alien. So anyway, someone should write the book on that. So welcome. I want you to know before we get started that this is all being recorded. So you are welcome to do what you need to do regarding your camera and whatnot. But you're welcome to speak or use the chat feature. Today's class, just so you know, is this is the beginning of the Advanced Emotions for Dummies set. So this class is going to be mostly in meditation. There's some words I'm going to read, but it's mostly a meditative set. So for that reason, you may want to just chill, make yourself comfortable, grab a pillow. You were going to be some people's idea of meditation is very formal and, sitting on a cushion, but you don't need to do anything like that. Just make yourself relaxed. Make yourself relaxed. Okay, let me go ahead and grab a couple of things. If anyone would like to tell me, because these classes are all social emotional based, I can talk about who I am too. My name is Dr. Donny. I'm a sociology professor at CSU East Bay, who's also going back to school to get a master's in counseling. So I'm actually 1 month away of going up for tenure as a sociologist, where I focus on issues of childhood identity, power dynamics, this thing called adultism, and social emotional learning, which is all about connecting to your feelings. So many of us, just didn't get this information when we were children, how to actually connect to our feelings. If you had some super in tune adult, Buddhist adult, then maybe you did, but otherwise, it may not have happened. So it's just so important for us to learn some of these things now. So the first thing I ever wanted to do in life was to be not the first thing. The first thing in college was I wanted to be a counselor, a psychology. Well, that's not true either. The first thing I wanted to be was a musician. And then when I changed my mind on that, I went into pre-med. And then after that, I wanted to be a counselor. But then I got moved out of that into more research-oriented stuff, which led to me getting a PhD in sociology in the long run. But now I'm finally kind of going back to this dream I had of wanting to be a high school counselor. So I could kind of be the social emotional person that could be there for some young people, in a way that many adults were not there for me. Okay, that's where I'm at. So if you'd like to tell me how you're doing today, I kind of spilled out a whole lot of things there. But if anyone would like to tell me how they're feeling today, either talk or text, feel free. I'm listening. Me and this bread pillow. I have a bread pillow. I can hold this. I bought this so I could eat. I thought it'd be cute to eat in bed. So got a bread pillow. I'm sitting on an egg also. Okay, well, if anybody has anything you want to say or bring up or anything at all, just hit that chat button or say something, okay? I'm gonna move you over here while I grab this. Okay, so all the material we're gonna be using today come from this big social emotional workbook I'm putting together that I call the Book of You. The Book of You. So I am going to, assuming my internet doesn't move at a snail's pace, I'm going to get a link for you because this is a Google document. I'm going to send you the whole Book of You. So it's about 15 exercises. That's all. It's about, that's, how weird. Okay. There's about 15 exercises. And it's all dedicated to getting in touch with your thoughts and feelings. I read, something on the order of 30 books related to psychology, trauma, all these dealing with your emotions. I mean, I essentially got another master's degree in trauma, doing all this research to heal myself from some things that were happening to me in my own life. I'm getting a whole lot of just stuff that's popping up here. Okay, here we go. Internet. Okay, here we go. So this link here takes you to the Book of You workbook. You're free to share that link with people. Refer back to it. Make a PDF of it, save it to your drive, share it with other people. It's just a huge chunk of resources, okay? I'm giving it away. This is what I give all my students in my classes. So the exercises we're doing are exercises that I do in a college course, okay? Okay, so maybe we should do this. Just get a little more acquainted. And I just want to say, if anybody would like to say how you're feeling, there's a list of emotions that's in this book, and you can flip through that list and come up with some words to put your feelings into words if you like. It's on page 9. Very welcome. Okay, there's a list of emotions there. Just let me know, okay? So as you can see, running through this table of contents, just to settle into things here. But this book is all about teaching you how to meditate, exercises for your feelings. There's some things I put in here about sort of like healing from childhood stuff. So like realizing our dreams and goals is all about your connecting to your childhood self. The specific emotions, like working with fear. And then I have a special exercise where I put all this together, and I call that the ego killer exercise, okay? Which that's what we did last week. And then in part 2, which is the second half of the semester, we go through self-soothing exercises, or what I call inner baby work, childhood abuse, inner child work, healing, how to grieve, deconstructing beliefs, and investigating relationships. And this thing called story-based strategy, where you question the stories we tell ourselves. Okay, so today we are going through inner baby work. So we're going to go through this bit today. We have the option of also going through this. This is a handout, child abuse. Needless to say, discussing childhood abuse can be heavy, heavy, heavy. So we'll see how we feel after part 1, okay? And then we'll take a vote, and then we'll make decisions after that, okay? But if you want to read it and we want to read it together, we can totally do that. And we can have a huge discussion about childhood abuse as well. Okay, it's totally up to all of you. Okay, I would say I'm feeling lonely and a little overwhelmed. Yes. Yes, and thank you for the combination. If I can offer something that I learned this week in one of my classes, the human mind can only perceive 4 things, which is thoughts, feelings, images, and bodily sensations. thoughts, feelings, images, and bodily sensations. All right. So anytime you're feeling anything, you can immediately break it up into those 4 categories, which can just help you to play with those elements, question them, play with them, turn them around, just question them. It can help shake you up out of maybe certain patterns you might feel stuck in. So I've been doing these exercises a lot this week, and it's really been releasing a lot of stuff for me. Well, I had a rough day today too, so you are not alone. So I honor your feelings. And if anyone else wants to tell me how they're feeling, let me know. Okay. Okay, well, feel what you feel up here. I'm going to start reading some of this stuff here. I should say this is here because it's so important for us to get in touch with how to make ourselves feel better. I didn't know any of this stuff when I started this exercise, but there was one day when I was meditating, page 33. There's one day when I was meditating, and we all believe in this inner child concept. And so I said, well, if that's true, then is there such a thing as an inner baby? And if we really believe in the inner child, then what would the inner baby even be? And so I didn't do anything about that at the time. I recall I posted that on Facebook, and a few mothers responded, and they said it'd be about treating yourself in a really soft way and being really gentle and kind to yourself. And I was like, well, that's nice. But that was kind of like there for 1 week, and then it was gone. But I got back around to this concept a few years ago, and I researched it, and it turns out this is what the inner baby would be. It's how to take care of yourself like if you were a baby. Okay, so we're going to have a meditation where we're going to take ourselves back to babyhood, and we're going to let ourselves just feel for a bit. Okay. And then I guess I'll explain a little bit more. I'll read this material, and then the steps for the meditation, there's 3 steps. So there's 3 levels of intensity. So we'll start on step 1. We'll move to step 2 and then step 3. And it's always your choice how deep you would like it to go for you, okay? By step 2, I'm gonna put on some music, because that'll be a nice set the mood sort of thing, okay? Baby music, okay? But it's up to you, whatever works for you, okay? So whatever you need to feel comfortable doing this, wherever this goes for you, just hope the idea is to create a safe space for you to get in touch with your feelings, okay? That is the whole point of all of this, is to make a safe space to love ourselves, okay? And so this is a really great exercise that I learned how to do to soothe myself whenever I'm feeling like lonely and a little overwhelmed. Okay. Yeah. I often suffer from panic attacks, for example. At night, I wake up in the middle of the night all the time for the past 10 years of my life. None of these exercises have helped any of that to go away, but it has helped me to learn how to process, cry, work through the feelings, the trauma, get to a place where I don't feel stuck and hurt and angry or afraid. I feel like these things are loosening up and letting go, and my inner life is opening, consistently opening. Okay. So I think I'm on the right path somewhere. Okay. So for that reason, I want to share this with all of you. Okay. Okay, so let's have a meditation. So we're going to really ease into this, okay? The beginnings of meditation, in case you didn't take that class, the beginnings of meditation are always built on the breath, not on closing your eyes. No spiritual bypassing BS. No looking cool. Just focus on your breath. Focus on your breath. Just notice your breath, okay? Wherever you were going, wherever was going on. Most of us live in our minds, so our minds spin all the time. So just notice your breath. Just notice your breath. Or notice your mind. And notice your breath. The reason why I said the breath is because the breath is the one thing you are doing, whether you are conscious of it or not. You're breathing. It's happening. It connects us right to the present moment. The mind is infinite, but the breath is always happening in the present moment. Okay, and if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. And if you don't, you can keep them open. Just sink into your body. That's not easy. That's not easy. You can start with noticing your mind, actually. You know, our minds bubble around all day long. See if you can feel the bubbling, the energy. You might feel large things or small things there, things that move, things that feel stuck. Just notice. If you'd like to take that deeper, you can notice any images, any bodily sensations, thoughts and feelings. Or whatever you feel there, if you're willing, I invite you to sink in. Slow down to stillness. Slow down to stillness. And with each breath, feel yourself moving down like you're in an elevator. Each breath down a floor, like an escalator. Each breath moving down. The longest escalator in the world, each breath. And if you feel comfortable, I invite you to slow your breath down. This escalator is a magic escalator, so it's going to take us to a magical place that's important, special, just for you. Maybe it's a golden escalator even. You know, you're moving down and breathing the air. You just feel the richness, the oxygen in the air, moving down. And it just keeps moving. You know, maybe you feel yourself maybe getting younger, lighter. Something important here, something really valuable and important is here just for you in this going down this escalator. You know, it's like the most, that air you get right when you open the grocery store door, that super fresh, chill air. You're just moving down each breath, feeling this freshness. When it feels like this escalator couldn't possibly go on any further, you come to the bottom, and in front of you, is a door. A door, a big golden special door. Maybe you see it far in the darkness, but you can still see it because it's golden. Something that put on this door that you know is just for you. Like, not just for you, even like your toy, but I'm talking like the universe. Put something on this door to make it clear this is just your door. You start walking toward that door. Slowly feeling the ground beneath your feet. Now you see the door step by step. It gets larger and larger. You start to see the shine. You get to the door. You put your hand on the doorknob. You get that feeling again that something incredibly special is here just for you. And you open the door slowly. You walk in, and sure enough, it's the current bedroom you have right now. So maybe you're taken aback at seeing the usual place. But in the corner, you start to hear a faint sound like baby music. Maybe the tinkling of a little nursery rhyme. Maybe the sound of a little mobile moving. You get this special feeling. You look around the room and see all your usual things. But you get this special feeling that something's different this time just for you. I'm just taking the room. Right to left, all your usual things, you know. But you hear this music. Then you finally look over into the corner, and sure enough, there's a baby's crib. Maybe you're a little weirded out by that, you know? But you yet again get this feeling that something important is here just for you. You walk over to the crib. You hear the sounds, little gurgling sounds of a baby. You look down, and sure enough, it's not just a baby. It's you as a baby. Take a moment and just look at your baby. Your baby look at you. Get connected. While you get connected, I'll read these words. After about 9 months of being in our mother's womb, we are born. However, babies are born emotionally complete, but physically completely helpless. So helpless, they are even born without the ability to make themselves feel better when they get upset, or what's called self-soothing. Aside from thumb sucking, which can happen in the womb, the first 6 months of a baby's life requires their parents to look at them lovingly, touch them, hold them, nurse them, and rock them to sleep. Babies are born with mirror neurons that are trained to mimic the actions of what they see. So at the age of 6 to 9 months, with the help of parents, babies learn to self-soothe on their own. This forms the basis for developing a healthy sense of self-care and self-esteem as babies develop into children. Hey, if you like, you can hold your baby. See what it's like to hold a baby. This might be a first time experience for you. What's it like to hold yourself as a baby? Even if you're not interested in holding a baby, someone else's baby, you have no interest in having children, you still have your own inner baby, which still needs holding right now. Examples of self-soothing for babies are grabbing a soft object like a teddy bear, patting and rubbing themselves, soft music, or even looking into a mirror because babies have no self-judgment. As they get older, healthy babies develop interdependence, where they feel safe to explore the world and know that they can return home to a safe place. Many of us did not get this level of assured safety as babies, or we lived with lots of anxiety, pain, loneliness, control, or other hurtful things. Babies who are abused or neglected can develop intense, conflicting feelings of terror or even infant depression. And let's say your baby started to cry. The way babies cry, just all of a sudden with no control. All like that. How would you soothe this baby? What would you do? What would you do? Rock your baby side to side. Put some loving words in there. I love you. Sing a little song. Self-soothing resets the amygdala, the part of the brain that deals with emotions and flight or fight responses. Ongoing or major episodes of stress and trauma can disrupt the emotional system, which can lead to overwhelming emotions and flashbacks, irrational thinking, like you're going crazy, hypervigilance, constantly on the lookout for danger, depressed and negative thinking, and a host of health problems like migraines, allergies, and chronic pain. Self-soothing teaches us distress tolerance, the ability to get through a crisis you can't manage or solve. Oh, like the 10 million things happening right now. These things work better than unhealthy skills like constantly fidgeting, binge eating, drugs and other addictions, sex, social isolation, or lashing out at other people. Self-soothing teaches us to treat ourselves with compassion, kindness, and care. Things that may have been denied to you if you had any pre-verbal abuse or neglect before the age of 3. Self-soothing involves reconnecting to the senses. Find enjoyable things to see, hear, smell, touch, taste, or move to. Healthy adult versions of self-soothing are hugging, wrapping in a blanket, a warm bath, brushing your hair, nature walks, calming music, sipping tea. This is great. Ooh, sucking a lollipop. Ooh, I'm just feeling like all the stuff just fall. Oh, mm, mm, mm. Cat or dog, Scented candles, the smell of something cooking, the sound of the ocean. Amen. Coloring books, fidget toys, and journaling. The list will be different for everyone, but in general, soothing things are warm, dark, quiet, mellow, sweet, soft, rhythmic, or cuddly. Also, many of these things are similar to grounding techniques like walking barefoot on grass, eating slow, focusing on the breath, or stretching. Before I read the next step, let me just say this. How are you and this baby going? Your baby calm down? Allow your baby to fall back asleep and just hold you and your baby. You got any words for this baby? Anything this baby needs to know about you? Anything you want to inform this baby about? Anything you want to communicate to this baby? How about I'm here to keep you safe? I care. You matter to me. I'm sorry that I put work ahead of you so often that I hear you but I put my attention elsewhere. I recognize that that's not the healthiest relationship we could have. I want you to know you're special. I want you to know it's my job to remind you that you are special. If you don't feel special, you can come to me. I love you that much. Oh. To be honest with all of you, the first time I did this exercise, I cried I had like a breakdown crying. Never even dawned on me before I could do something like this with myself. Ended up watching what's called an ASMR video and just had a total fallout. Combined that with some meditation, just started doing these exercises and just realized how much I felt deprived of all this care. How much I deprived myself of all this care now as an adult. Many people have a hard time with self-soothing. Not getting this from our parents leads us to be hard on or abandon ourselves. As adults, we adopt beliefs that we have to be tough or that we don't deserve care, or we feel guilty or ashamed, or we're too afraid to try because the exercises are childish or awkward. It's important to note that we are healing our emotional connection with the inner baby. Self-soothing may not make any sense to the rational part of the brain, but it's the emotional part that's the most important. Also, I can just add to that our brain is only 20% conscious. 80% of our brain is unconscious. So it is the emotional, unconscious part that is the most important. We don't make fun of babies for doing these things, so don't make fun of the part of you that will always be a baby. Imagine walking into a room and hearing a crying baby. You pick up the baby and see it's you as a baby. What would you do to soothe that baby? At least practice talking to yourself and holding yourself in a soothing way. How's that going? You know, this is not an exercise to judge, blame, shame, anything. You feel. You feel what you feel. Oh, you feel what you feel. If you would like to take this even deeper, you can actually imagine yourself as the baby. This is all an exercise in vulnerability, right? Self-vulnerability. So you can also imagine yourself as the baby, being held, being loved, being cared for, without having to do anything in return. Just being held for, loved by the universe itself. Without having to do anything in return. Hey, what would you like the universe to say to you? Those things you want, things you wanted to say to your baby, you could have the universe say them to you. You are loved. You are special. Even if life is full of hard times, you are still loved and special. The universe thinks everyone is loved and special. The universe loves everyone. That's the idea. God is love, right? There's one final exercise that's important to learn here, is you can put a mantra into this practice, especially if you want to go to sleep, you're working through something, and just repeat a mantra to yourself. So we tell babies just to rest, rest, please rest. You deserve rest. Just allow your body to rest. Rest is so important. You think rest is important. Please rest. You deserve rest. You've worked hard. What's the most logical thing to do? What would you tell someone if they worked hard all day? You would tell them to rest. Please rest. You deserve rest. Rest and know that worrying doesn't solve any of your problems. Worrying is a horrible coping mechanism. Just waste our own energy. We can release worry. We can learn to release fear. To shrink fear. To move with fear. Move through fear. We can learn to let go. This little baby is our teacher. What better teacher could there be? Just let all this flow into your heart. The heart is the seat of your little baby self. You were a heartbeat long before you were a brain. You know, that 20% up there is the rational part. That other 80% is the real you down there. Just open your heart. Ooh. Many of us struggle with trusting the universe. I struggle with trusting the universe, trusting the greater plan. So let's just give ourselves one moment to see what would trusting the universe feel like. What does it feel like just in this moment? Feel like the universe completely has our back. Oh. Okay. Feel you've gotten to a good place with your baby. You see them all drooling all over your arm, comatose. Put your baby gently back into the crib. Maybe give them a little toy, a little stuffed animal. Hold. Put the blanket over them. Just let them know that they are safe and you are here. Just communicate it through your body language. I am safe and I am here for you. Or you can turn a baby monitor on. Turn around and start to walk out of the room. Hear the music get fainter and fainter in the background. You get to the door, you hold the knob again, and that super special feeling comes back up. Just for you. And you're like, aha, yes, you were right. You walk through the door and close it behind you. And you're back into that space, that dark space before you get back to the escalator. And whatever you were feeling before, now you feel that just this calmness, this peace, this openness, this space you just never really knew was there. But I guess it had to have been there all this time. So you walk through that darkness, a cool, calm darkness, a mellow, soft darkness, the rhythm of your feet echoing in the space. You see the glow of the escalator in front. You move to the escalator and this breeze, this gentleness just lifts you on to the escalator and you head back up each breath a stair, each breath a floor, back up. And you're filled with this feeling of something super important and special is here inside me, always. That I am super important and special for just existing, because that is how the universe works. Everything is. That the little baby down there, whatever they went through, it brought you to this moment right here. That little baby is your teacher. Stay connected. When you get to the top of the escalator, back into a place where there's sunlight, perhaps you move back into your body, back into the room, the space you're in, back into outer space. And allow yourself to just come to. And when you're in a space where you feel you've roused enough that you can communicate, and let me know how you feel. That was our exercise on healing the inner baby. Okay, so tell me how you feel about that. Tell me how you feel. What came up for you? How did you feel doing it? Good, bad, otherwise? Let me know, my babies. Let me know. And I'm sharing the screen with this information. Okay, I mentioned how this exercise was for me how it was for me, right? Like I had a huge boo-hoo first time I did it, but now I've done it 100 times and it's really helped me out a lot, an awful lot. Getting in touch with those soft parts of ourselves can be really hard at first, you know? So it takes some revisiting. I feel a tightness in my shoulders. So yeah, the beautiful thing, if you learned anything from this exercise, is to give yourself care where you feel pain. Let your mind, this was all imagination, right? We just used our imagination for the last hour to just imagine all this stuff that didn't actually happen, right? So that's the power of imagination. Imagination can heal, help us heal. So bring some care to where you feel that pain. That pain could be a current thing going on, or it could be history, your body trying to tell you something. Often we store tension, frustration, anger, stress in our neck and shoulders, right? So just space to listen. Amazing. All my baby wanted was to feel safe. And when you said that, I was loved just for existing without having to do anything. That hit me hard. Yeah, those are things I struggle with. So yeah. Hmm. Mm. Thank you. Thank you. Mm. Okay. Oh, some things. There's a few things here maybe I didn't mention. Let's say. Oh, another exercise you can try is to let yourself go back to the womb itself. That can be nice. Thinking of soothing things, like just thinking of pizza, just literally holding the baby and thinking of pizza. I mean, that just feels great. Okay. Pizza. My kids self love pizza. I still love pizza. So, okay. You can also think about releasing your coping mechanisms. You can name a coping mechanism you have and just sit with it in a real soothing place so you can just explore it a bit better. That's a good idea. Okay. And like I said, we played the soothing baby music also. Just so you know, that soundtrack came from YouTube. I just YouTube baby music, and that showed up just like that. 8 hours of baby music. Okay. It's really good to play if you have trouble going to sleep. So just so you know, in this workbook, the next exercise that my students do is this boring self-care exercise. This wonderful human being put up a meme on Instagram. So let me read this. The best definition of self-care I ever heard was living in such a way that you never feel the need to take a vacation from your life. Okay, I'm going to read that again. The best definition of self-care I ever heard was living in such a way that you never feel the need to take a vacation from your life. You never feel the need to take a vacation from your life. Okay, that's deep. Imagine what that would be to be so chill that you would never feel the need to take a vacation from your life. Okay. Well, hashtag boring self-care is an Instagram meme that is about celebrating the everyday things we do to take care of ourselves and our lives. So many of us struggle to accomplish basic self-care, and then we beat ourselves up for not doing them. Yes. Use the space here to draw your own boring self-care picture. This is like art therapy. So here's some examples of people doing boring self-care. This one says, wore day clothes in the daytime and night clothes at night. I struggle with this one, okay? This one says, woke up and got out of bed before 12 p.m. Did the dishes, okay? Cut my toenails, went outside, went out in the sun, emptied the bin. The person who did this is British, so there you go. Emptied the bin, went food shopping. Where I come from, we say made groceries. We made groceries. That's Louisiana for you. And this one says rested. Put the phone on, the phone's on charge, and they rested. Oh, here's some more. Survived a day at work. Survived a day at work. Did my homework and opened a window. Opened a window. Okay, so it's all about coming up with the basic things we do to take care of ourselves and celebrating those things instead of ignoring them. Instead of ignoring them, so we can build a self-care vocabulary, right? Right? You pull off cutting your toenails, you can move to going outside, to getting the groceries done, to making space to just sit and drink the tea, to watching your favorite show, taking a long shower, cooking a nice meal for yourself. Anybody else have any self-care? What any examples of boring self-care that are important to you? Buying new pillows for myself. Taking my medication. Wearing the mask. Essential oils, yes. Exercise, stretching, taking a warm shower, deep breathing. Going to the park. Buying massage tools on Amazon. Cooking. Sleeping in. Oh, hey, Will, let me tell you, I have decided since December when school ended, I decided that I would sleep whenever I felt like it. Instead of just sometimes taking a nap at lunchtime, I decided I would just sleep whenever I felt like it. So I made breakfast and then went back to sleep, lunch and then went back to sleep, and then I would work in the afternoon. And I'm really fortunate that I have a job that I can work out my schedule and that I can do things like this. But let me tell you how incredibly liberating it was to sleep that much. Like the church of sleep. I mean, it just reset the whole clock. Yeah, it's really awesome. So I just sleeping in is like paying yourself wages. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, it's like getting all the unearned money. Wages don't go up in this country since the 1970s. So sleep is the only way I can think of to get my wages back real quick, right here, right now. Jealous. I struggle with sleep and can't take naps even if I tried. Happy for you though. Okay, let's honor that. Let's honor that. Well, please look through this workbook because there's lots of exercises, especially there's a whole series of trauma releasing exercises that you could also try that may help with help re-regulate your sleep mechanism. Although I also just said none of these things have completely solved all my sleep problems. They just have helped me to manage them better. I used to be someone who could, before I turned 30, could sleep 8 hours through anything. Just like a baby, just sleep through anything. But then since 30, I moved from New Orleans and my life got shaken up, and then it's never been the same after that. Another thing I could suggest also is having a ritual. People say a nighttime ritual, you know, like turning all the lights off and no TV, like at least a half hour before you go to bed, and getting in your night clothes, and all those, no drinking. They say all those things work well too. I have to tell you, I fail at every single one of those things. I'm horrible at every single one of those things. So you know, but they say all those things help. So there you go. Okay, wonderful people. So it's almost 6 o'clock. You can, if you would like, to spend the next hour talking about childhood emotional abuse. Because many of us went through these things. And one reason why you can struggle with sleep or any emotional issues is because of the stuff we went through as kids. And it's always a lot nicer to read that stuff with a friend, with a kind person, instead of reading it alone. So if you like, we can read these things together, and then we can talk about them. Okay? Or if you're not feeling that, then we can cancel class. So tell me how you feel. Because, if you read this and you're like, oh, that's too deep. Nah. If you're really feeling that way, I honor people's feelings. That's what this is all about, right? Getting in touch with your feelings. So tell me how you feel. When I give my students a choice in my classes, I usually think they're always going to go, no. But then they always say yes. But then, by this point in the semester, it's like, past the halfway point, right? That sounds good. I'm down. That sounds good. I feel good about reading it together and then discussing it. Down. Boom. Brave people. Brave people. Okay. So this material all comes from what's called the No More Shame Project. And this YouTube page called Trauma Recovery University, or also known as #CPTSD Chat, which is by Athena Moberg. And Athena Moberg, she lives in Hawaii. I'll just give you her story right now. She says that she grew up in California, and the West Coast, and was raised in some sort of super religious family. She was molested by her father. She was bought and sold for objects or drugs by her parents. This was some kind of Christian cult related kind of stuff. She eventually got a boyfriend and had a kid, but basically so she could get out of the situation she was in at 16. Boyfriend was abusive, so when the kid was finally a couple of years old, she and the kid she got sick of the family, so she packed it all up and moved to Hawaii because she felt like if she was at least out of the continent, she would be safe. Okay. She moved to Hawaii. She had a whole nice life in Hawaii. She got a job in the Hilton hotel chain. She made it really high up to the CEO of this, that, and the other. Good money. Her kid, grew up okay. She got remarried. Her kid went off to college. Okay. Her kid went off to college. She drove him to college. She dropped off his stuff. And then she drove back home, came home to an empty house. And then basically every memory that of what she had been through as a kid came flooding all right back. Okay. This is a common occurrence for many people who have been through psychological trauma. Okay. This also happened to me 3 years ago when I suddenly got a phone call informing me that should I just spill all my family stuff? Informing me of some childhood stuff that came to the surface around my brother. And when I tried to get it addressed, let's just say I made a decision that day that I don't condone childhood sexual abuse. I don't, and I will never. And to find out I have parents who would look the other way was very difficult to hear. And that brought up a flood of memories of my own childhood, just being oppressed as a queer person that I had blocked up. Yeah, that's the simple version of what happened to me 3 years ago. But I had to do a lot of healing to process all of this. And in that process, I found this channel one day because this channel has 200 videos that deal with different aspects of childhood abuse. And so I watched, over the course of one summer, I watched all of those videos and I put them together into this handout. I also I've had several conversations with Athena Moberg also. She's a wonderful human being. Okay, so here's some statistics. So just whatever you need to get through this, thanks for sharing and being vulnerable. You're very welcome. The one thing that has gotten me through the last 3 years was opening up about all of this. well, I'd have to go into a whole story of what happened, but the day it happened, I got a phone call from my brother's now ex-wife, and I just decided I would just open up about it from day one, because if I tried to hide all this stuff, it was going to poison me. So many people have been through abuse, sexual abuse, that kind of stuff in their families, and it often gets swept under the rug, and that turns the victim of the abuse into, like, it just makes it 10 times as worse to have to suffer through that stuff when everybody sides with the abuser. Okay, so let's read these statistics. So whatever you need to comfort yourself through this, okay? Grab that pillow, rock yourself, grab the beep, okay? Okay, just know you're not alone, okay? That's why I told all that story. That's why I told that story, because I want you to know you're not alone. About 80% of 21-year-olds who were abused as children meet the criteria for at least one psychological disorder. That's very brave. Well, you're very welcome. 50% of those abused as children will develop PTSD or CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, as a child or later in adulthood. Okay, so just take that in, just that alone, okay? 80% of 21-year-olds meet the criteria for one psychological disorder if they were abused as children, and 50% of people abused as children develop PTSD as an adult, okay? 50% of people with eating disorders were sexually abused as children. 2/3 of people in drug abuse treatment reported being abused or neglected as children. More than 50% of people abused as children experienced domestic abuse in later life. Over 1 billion people around the world report being abused as children. A report of child abuse is made every 10 seconds. 5 children a day in the US die as a result of child abuse. 80% of them are younger than the age of 5. 90% of children knew their abuser, usually a family member or a friend of family. 40% were abused by an older child. Females are 5 times more likely than men. Black children are twice as likely than whites. And poor children are 3 times more likely to be abused as children. Okay, needless to say, by those statistics, if you are a poor Black female, you hit the top bracket, okay? 10 to 20% of all young people engage in self-harm, like cutting, binge drinking, anorexia, starting fights, hitting oneself, extreme rules or pressure or social isolation. 50% of people engaged in self-harm have been sexually abused. Okay, so take a moment and answer this question. If my wounds were visible, fill in that blank. What would your blank be? If my wounds were visible, people would just give me liquor. If my wounds were visible, I could hear the ambulance already. If my wounds were visible, my wounds were visible. If my wounds were visible, people wouldn't expect me to smile. If my wounds were visible, people would roll out a red carpet for me for just showing up. So the whole point of this exercise is to validate what you're feeling on the inside. So it's just, if anything comes up for that, just see what answers come up, okay? If your wounds were visible. Often we struggle to recognize forms of abuse and call them for what they are. Many of us don't get external validation for what we went through, or people outright refuse to believe us. We often minimize or deny the abuse from childhood, especially if we were told to get over it or just be grateful. Often we blame ourselves or avoid the reality of our feelings because it's hard to accept that those we love or were supposed to protect us failed and or betrayed us. Many of us only get help because after years of nothing else working to heal or feel better, we just want the pain to stop. If my wounds were visible, people would stop accepting or expecting so much for me and understand why oh boy, Jesus, let me get this right. If my wounds were visible, people would stop expecting so much from me and understand why I've suffered with depression all my life. Yeah, people would drop all those expectations. Thank you. Emotional neglect is one of the most silent and painful forms of childhood abuse. Unlike physical abuse or maltreatment, it is mostly invisible and may show no symptoms until later in adulthood, once you have survived the abuse and are struggling to have a normal life. Because an emotional bruise can last a lifetime if not examined, this can often mean years or even decades of normal functioning until something occurs to jar those memories open later in life. Here's some parenting styles of emotional neglect. Authoritarian parents, strict and don't listen. Permissive parents, never teach boundaries. Narcissistic parents, focus on their own needs. Perfectionistic parents, setting unrealistically high expectations that make you feel never good enough. Ding, ding, ding. Absent parents, ding, ding. Children raise themselves into little adults. All these parenting styles invalidate the child's experience to the point that they can't trust themselves. Often our parents pretended everything was okay instead of recognizing our feelings. Without a parent to give positive or honest reflection, children struggle to develop a positive sense of self or reality. Many children believe the lies of their abuser and develop learned helplessness, where after years of not exercising personal power, where saying no didn't solve anything, we develop the belief we can't do anything right and we shouldn't even bother trying. These tactics create cognitive dissonance in children, forcing our consciousness, our ego to split or break into separate parts, setting us up for significant emotional distress and developing the idea that we are bad and responsible for the abuse. And some symptoms of emotional neglect are, are numbing out, feeling empty or like there's something missing, feeling like you're a fake, an imposter, a phony, or you don't belong in the world, or no one loves you, being easily overwhelmed or discouraged, constantly staying busy, ding, feeling like you're going crazy, and thoughts of suicide. Many of the symptoms of abuse do not appear until adulthood. CPTSD may mean you have hardwired unhealthy thinking patterns that were reinforced during early critical brain stages as children. You may have PTSD emotional flashbacks, anxiety, triggers, extreme sensitivity to rejection, hypervigilant about safety, sleep problems, nightmares, and obsessive and/or negative thinking. You may be an expert at putting up walls against other people or your feelings. You may be afraid of feeling happy or afraid to feel altogether, which is called emotiphobia. Other symptoms are difficulty attaching to others, social isolation, poor impulse control, excessive shame, perfectionism, and a poor self-concept like body image problems, low self-worth, self-esteem. The pain of a history of abuse, emotional pain, shame, and disconnection from love leads us to unhealthy attachments or an addiction to pleasure seeking like food, porn, shopping, exercise, love, work, people pleasing, video games. You may have dissociated as a child to stay safe during the abuse, but as an adult, you can't stay in the present moment or live on autopilot, struggle to be in your body, or stay stuck in fantasies. Many survivors of abuse used hypervigilance and perfectionism as a way to stay safe as a child. This makes you into an adult who is gifted at handling extreme situations or complicated tasks. Oh dear. But you struggle emotionally on a day-to-day level or have no ability to just relax. Okay, that's a huge one for me, so let me just read that one again. Many survivors of abuse use hypervigilance and perfectionism as a way to stay safe as a child. This makes you into an adult who is gifted at handling extreme situations or complicated tasks, but you struggle emotionally on a day-to-day level or have no ability to just relax. These tactics can make you feel good or safe in the short term or lessen the pain and anxiety, but are really examples of self-sabotage and self-harm. Survivors often struggle with keeping jobs due to emotional instability, low self-esteem, or burnout. Self-care is especially hard. Even maintaining daily habits like brushing teeth or eating is a challenge because focusing on your body can bring up feelings of worthlessness. Even procrastination can be tied to abuse because low self-worth and high anxiety can lead to chronic avoidance. Underneath all these symptoms is the idea that we are afraid, ashamed, and not worthy of love, so we unconsciously destroy our efforts to do better in life. So me, yeah, yeah, me too. I had two parents who were both, well, one was abused, one was tortured. She says abused, I would say tortured. And then the other one was very badly neglected as children. So they did their best. They really did. They really, really did. But there was just so much they just didn't know. You know, their parenting came from those situations and from watching the Donna Reed show and Bewitched and stuff. And so they did the best they could, you know. It certainly looked good on the surface. Oh, you know, I had food to eat. We had cars. We had a brick house. We had things, you know, but emotional needs are, frankly, I'd rather almost be hungry. I'd rather have a parent who I knew was there and just there with me emotionally than making sure I had, you know, 3 cooked meals, but no connection, you know. When I said I felt sad or hurt, I just got told how to feel my whole life. So it wasn't until I was 30 years old that I actually taught myself how to cry. I had a horrific breakup that I just had like a panic attack and I didn't know what to do. And I had to teach myself how to cry at 30 because I didn't know any of this stuff, you know. I was someone who thought that if I could just, I came out of the closet at 16. I felt better about myself. My parents were completely unsupportive. My mother actually called me a waste of a human being when I told her, okay, and never apologized for it either. But I got better. I felt better. I mean, I did what I needed to do. I was living my truth. I felt better. I went to college. Things got way better once I went to college. So I just moved on. I focused on achieving, getting my adult life. Didn't realize I'd have to go back and piece through and process and heal all this stuff. So suddenly I get my PhD at 31 and I get my first job and I think I should be happy now. And I was, the paychecks were coming in. I was doing work I believe in. 9 to 5, I was very happy. But then I came home and I was just feeling empty and I didn't know why. And that led to starting all this. Studies even show that those abused in childhood have actual brain damage on the same level as those who have been to war. Okay, 20 years of child abuse is the same as going to a tour in Iraq. Okay, you may have gone through 20 years of child abuse and several tours in Iraq. Constantly living in fear and stress soaks the executive function of our brain, the parts that make decisions, in a toxic amount of cortisol and adrenaline. The prefrontal cortex is less able to deal with changing habits, or long-range planning and consequences. The amygdala has a hard time managing emotional responses and overreacts. Our hippocampus shrinks and damages how we store memories. These impairments create intrusive, obsessive thinking, leaving us in a state of hyperarousal and chronically fatigued. And it potentially even leads to the creation of autoimmune diseases and other physical ailments in the body. I didn't know how to cry and wasn't able to cry until I was 35. You know, especially for those of us who were born male, you know, it could just really, you know, we were just taught from the get-go that you just don't do that. So it's like life tells you you're male, so you can accomplish and achieve, and you should fight and achieve and accomplish. But at the same time, one of the biggest tools you would need for surviving through all of that, surviving and achieving and accomplishing, you're just crippled. You're just crippled from having feelings, except for anger and joking it off. So, you know, is it any surprise that doesn't work out well? Okay, so another major issue is social isolation and attachment. This scroll is just going, there's so much scrolling. Another major issue is social isolation and attachment. Many abused children did not attach to their primary caregiver in a healthy way. Even worse, many were forced to be alone in some way as part of how your abuser controlled you, which is true for me. This means we may not have learned some key social skills or adopted some very unhealthy social skills, making it very difficult to navigate social situations and build friendships. Because we love the person that abused us, we learn to reach out and to fear getting hurt at the same time, creating the feeling of driving with the parking brake on. Okay, we learn to reach out and to fear getting hurt at the same time, creating the feeling of driving with the parking brake on, or in other words, stuck. This can lead to not trusting our intuition and choosing unhealthy, abusive relationships in adulthood. Survivors of abuse coming from extreme relationships as children are often obsessively clingy or completely aloof, overly logical or crazy emotional, overshare everything fast or never open up at all, terrified of arguing or a rageaholic. Just the thought of people might send you into survival mode. You may prefer to just stick with pornography or to be around animals instead of people, like the cat lady. While you may be able to avoid certain people that trigger you, like family, you may not be able to avoid others, like coworkers. Even words can be perceived entirely differently by a person who has survived this trauma. For example, our internal dialogue, our self-talk, can be filled with the negative language of our abuser. We can even hear them in our heads, reinforcing all of the put-downs, criticisms, and disgust thrown onto us. This can lead us to think every situation is a catastrophe, regardless of what actually happens. I suffered from that until about 2 years ago. Just even if I did well, if it didn't go 100% perfect, it was a catastrophe, which is horrible. It didn't work out. I was stupid. It just didn't work out. I had to struggle with that. There was one day I was biking back home and I was like, hey, wait a minute. Now, you're right, it didn't work out the way you wanted it to, but it worked out just fine and you had fun. We ended up playing one of those large Jenga games at this thing I went to, and I was like, I would totally buy one of those. So why are you beating yourself up so much? And there was a part of me that was like, oh, That was the first time I had ever went, you don't have to have a catastrophe that isn't accurate. You can give yourself a positive message instead. And who knows, if I hadn't taken that bike ride home, I probably wouldn't have even had the time to think about it. I just would have gone into my normal cycle. Oh. Even compliments can be hard for people who have been abused, because compliments often happened as grooming before the abuse happened. If you went through any kind of pre-verbal abuse before the age of 3, you may have only flashes of feelings or a snapshot of the abuse. Survivors of abuse are often passive-aggressive because of unresolved fear and anger from childhood. Regularly never getting your needs met may teach you to hide or shut down from fear of disappointment or disapproval. Your abuse may even have been so bad, you may shut down and forget whole sections of your childhood, segregating your inner child from your everyday present reality. Okay, your abuse may have been so bad, you may just put a wall up around the whole thing, just block the whole thing off. Okay? We probably all know people who have done that. Having normalized living life in extremes, it can be hard to develop a middle way. So we call it the scary middle. Okay, life is the scary middle. Okay, children live in a reality where we go, well, everything's bad. You know, like if I touch the floor, it's lava. I can only stay at this. If I touch the cracks, it's lava. I have to stay on the floor. Those rules make sense to a child. Those kind of extreme rules as an adult make life very hard because they don't. The adult world is much more complicated. We have a tendency, if you have been through any kind of this abuse that we just went through in this worksheet, you may have a tendency to hold on to extreme rules because those things made sense to keep you safe as a child. Okay, and it's not logical, it's not rational, it's just the kid thing you did. But as a kid who grew up like that, it may be hard as an adult to have a balanced approach to life. It can be hard. So that at the balanced approach, you didn't get taught a balanced approach to life as a kid. Okay, so this is all about moving from survival thinking to thriving thinking, moving from survive to thrive. Okay, and then thriving is the scary middle. Okay, so here's some tips for making that scary middle less scary. The first one is radical acceptance. Reread this information and just let yourself cry. And I have to tell you, as I was reading this, the latter half, I felt all kinds of weird things popping and moving in my brain. I have read this handout the first time we did it in class. Oh my God, we cried so much. We all cried. I've read this handout and just lost it sometimes in class. And I learned from doing that if I let myself go there and just cry, everyone else will appreciate it. No one else thinks I'm like weird or weak or, it's uncomfortable a bit, but everyone else appreciates it because so many of us struggle with, getting in touch with our feelings. So the most important thing you can do, having put all this together, is just to reread it and let yourself cry. If you went through anything on this list, you can clearly see you are someone who would benefit from some sympathy. Okay? That's what I felt reading this. So meditate on which parts are most true for you. Know that all abused children have thick, repressed layers of rage, resentment, and denial. Allow yourself to fully acknowledge what happened to you, how it's affecting you now, and be willing to make space to feel it through. This overcomes the need to protect ourselves through numbing, stuffing, avoiding, minimizing, and disengaging. Definitely go to the hashtag CPTSD chat, Trauma Recovery University YouTube page, and watch the hundreds of videos they have on this topic. Especially the ones with Bobby Parrish and Athena Moberg are very informative. Become aware of positive and negative emotions. Is this handout available? Yes, 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 yes. Let me repost the link. Let me repost the link. Here you go. Yeah, please, please print, save the PDF, share with other people. Please, please, please. Okay, and just so you know, this is not just a handout of these exercises. This is a whole workbook, okay? Called the Book of You. Okay, become aware of positive and negative emotions. Healing happens on two levels. The first is moving from feeling bad to feeling better. We have to feel all our feels so that we can heal. When we deny the truth of our feelings, we cannot heal. Develop your emotional intelligence. Honor what your inner child self feels. Honor what your inner baby feels. Recognize any chronic extreme feelings of anxiety, anger, or shame. Take responsibility for your emotions. Commit to your own recovery because you are worth it. Identify your needs and take steps to meet them. Recognize that your caregivers may not have taught you to meet all of your needs, and that you can step by step learn how to do that as a child. Work on becoming a responsible adult, which is not easy. Learn to communicate your personal boundaries clearly and unapologetically. Notice how people touch and speak to you. What is acceptable conversation? Learn to breathe and relax. Validate your experiences and feelings. Question any situation where love equals abuse. Okay, that's a good one, because having grown up in abuse, you may normalize abuse in all kinds of ways you're not even conscious of. Okay, one thing that came up for me reading that just now was to learn to communicate your personal boundaries clearly and unapologetically. So often, many of us are taught to accommodate other people, to be, what's the word, passive, or to constantly focus on being a nice person so we can accommodate others. But you get the right to just be really clear about what your boundaries are and what's cool and not cool. And you ain't got to tiptoe around that. You can just stay really straightforward what that is. Especially if anybody does something you feel violates your boundaries. It's the ideal thing to do is to say it very straightforward, unapologetically. The other thing I just would like to offer is just when question any situation where love equals abuse also means to question any situation where self-love equals abuse too. So that's a big one. A lot of us have learned habits that are not loving. And so it's just important to sit with that. Okay. And it's important to notice the habits you have that, you're just trying to show yourself love. Taking that drink might be your way of trying to show yourself love. If that's where you have to start, well, you can start there and then figure out how to build from there. I will say the greatest way to show yourself love is just to make space to have a feeling. It don't always feel good, but it's like giving yourself, I'd say $1 million, but there's no price. It's priceless. It's priceless. There are people who have millions of dollars. Jeff Bezos has billions, and he probably doesn't make space for his feelings. Okay, next is deconstruct your old negative beliefs. The second level of healing is to realize that ultimately your feeling bad was based on the thoughts, beliefs, and concepts you were holding. Recognize that you may have been told things that were abusive, or you needed to believe them in order to survive. And as adults, we have to question if those beliefs still serve our best interests. Examine how you talk to yourself, your self-talk. Be less judgmental. Talk to and stand up for the parts of you that need a voice or compassion. We have some exercises in this worksheet on deconstructing beliefs and common thought distortion worksheets that you can take a look at that to help you deconstruct your negative beliefs. Develop a realistic crisis management plan for the day when nothing goes right or you just can't handle anything. Have a set of super accessible, realistic tools on hand to help ground yourself. Examples are a special smell, candle, oil, food, aromatherapy, something to hold, positive affirmations, mantras, a safe place to go, like a car or under a blanket. Take time out to see how you deal with stress and ways you could be healthier. There's also a self-care guide at the beginning of this worksheet you can take a look at as well to help you with the crisis management plan. You can look at the exercise we just did on the inner baby, the self-soothing, give yourself some ideas. And I just want to say, this is not a sophisticated thing. This is a real thing, right? So this is about what do you have to do to really get in touch with your feelings. So it's not about looking cool. It's about when that day comes and breakdown hits, level 10 breakdown hits, what can you really honestly do to make yourself feel better, okay? So don't just write things that look cool on paper, okay? Write some real. You got to write the real thing you would do, right? So like for me, I know if I hit level 10, it's going to be, well, if I hit level 10, level 11 for me is I will grab the blanket and I will run into my closet and I will just sit on the floor under the blanket in the closet and cry. I'm so upset I can't even cry in bed. Level 10, level 11, that's it. I'm in the closet, okay? I will be getting a bottle of champagne and eating a whole bucket of chicken. Okay, that's realistic. Okay, that's realistic. I'm not saying it's healthy. I'm saying if I get that upset, what am I really going to do? So that way I know what it is. I'm not bullshitting myself. I know exactly what it is, and then I can play with that. There are days where, yeah, I got that upset, and I eat the whole 4-piece, the 5-piece, and all the champagne. There were days where I talked myself into just having the champagne and I worked through the feelings. There were days I ate the stuff and went meditate and just cried. I cried and ate. I cried and ate and cried and drank and cried and ate. Yeah, there were days it was just a 2-piece instead of all that food, unhealthy food. But the idea there is I started with something real to anchor myself into that. And then I built from there toward what is better and better for me. Okay, and I can tell you right now, I haven't had a day where I've had fried chicken and champagne in a while. Oh, wait, no, that's not true. I had one day a couple of weeks ago. But those days are getting fewer and fewer and farther in between. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the idea. That's the idea. Okay. Okay. Next is find safe community for validation. Recognize and find spaces where you feel you can truly be yourself or explore what that is. Learn to deal with people in small steps that you can handle. If you want, you can look up #peopling for some jokes on this. This can be large, like making new friends or doing new things, or small, like finding your favorite food or time of day. Yes, many people who have been abused just didn't learn basic things like who your little kid self was. There's a handout also in this worksheet on realizing your goals and dreams. You can take a look at that as well. So some of us, just didn't even know. Athena Moberg did not know what her favorite time of day was or her favorite food until she was in her 20s. She suddenly had a realization that she liked French fries, for example, or she liked sunsets. Talk to others about your experiences and your feelings. Develop self-respect and learn to honor your limitations. Honor your yeses and nos. Honor both of those, your yeses and nos. Develop your capacity for emotional intimacy. Start with yourself. Acknowledge and protect yourself against those who are not healthy or narcissistic and will not or will never change. Decide what boundaries are best between you and your abusers, low contact or no contact. Focus on healthy friends for family support, or what's called a framily. Realize your power in one aspect of your life at a time. Also, consider getting a pet or a safety animal. Okay, this is important. Know that everyone's recovery and healing journey is different. Moving from victim to survivor to thriver is not a linear process. Give yourself space to be. Connect to your inner child. Don't judge what she says. Remember, they went through the worst of the abuse. Engage in the play you didn't get as a child. Read and educate yourself about trauma, psychology, self-help, and spirituality. Okay, so that bit about actual brain damage really got me when I heard that. So I went and looked it up. So here you go. As you can see here, the brain, the big picture here, the brain on the left is a healthy brain of a quote unquote normal child. The brain on the right is the abused brain of a Romanian orphan. Now, just to say, I saw a documentary on Romanian orphans, and these poor babies are, basically given no love whatsoever from day one. They're often left in a crib with no one to take care of them. They grow up with horrific deformities. Okay, so they're really badly abused. Okay, extreme deprivation. Okay, so just notice the healthy brain, the healthy kid. There's lots of areas that are red and light up, in the front especially. Okay. Also, there's very little black spaces, black and purple spaces. Okay, those spaces are neatly organized and they're small. They're not large. Okay, and then compare that to the abused brain, where there's much less red in the front. Okay, much larger black spaces. Okay, well, basically what that means is your brain just shuts down. Less activity. Your brain, to cope with dealing with being abused, just shuts down. Okay, there might be a tiny spot in the back that might light up a little more, but other than that, it's just shutting down. And then you can see in the smaller picture, the kid that was not maltreated versus the kid that was maltreated. Same thing. Okay? The not maltreated kid, their brain is clicking along, but the abused kid has much less clicks. Okay. So just take note that, this is using the brain of a Romanian orphan, but so many of us have been through trauma, this kind of emotional abuse. You all don't know maybe who Athena Moberg is, but me, let's use me for an example. Yours truly here has been through some serious CPTSD abuse as a kid. So who knows what my brain looks like? Okay. Hey, I pulled off a PhD and 3 master's degrees. Okay, so dust those shoulders off. But who knows, I'm very functional in that way. And the flip side is all this stuff still came to the surface as an adult. Okay, so the good news here is that the brain continues to grow throughout your whole life. That's what's known as neuroplasticity. So even childhood emotional abuse and neglect can be overcome with living and eating healthy, learning about emotions, meditation, positive supportive friends, and living in a loving and safe environment. Okay, so that's the whole point of all this, is the idea that if we really touch into these things, take our feelings seriously, we develop these exercises to get in touch with ourselves, we can heal. We can heal and keep healing, to a place where maybe we can overcome or undo so much of this trauma. Okay, where we can get to a place where one day we get consistent good nights of sleep. Okay. I feel like that's coming just around the corner. If I just keep these exercises. Or maybe I can love myself just so much that when I wake up at 2 a.m., it's okay. I can just totally be in a state of love and acceptance with it. One way or the other. One way or the other. Those both sound like nice things, nice goals to get to, though. So, okay. So there was one other thing. If anybody has anything they want to say about this handout or anything you realize, and let me know. Okay. I'm here to listen, okay? There's a handout here at the end that's called the ACEs survey. Okay. Now this survey came about because Kaiser Permanente was doing a study on weight loss, but they found out that a huge chunk of the people who were struggling with their weight loss were abused as children. And so they gathered some more stuff on this, and they created the study. And if your ACEs score is 4 or more, the likelihood of you having a lung disease goes up by 400%, hepatitis 240%, depression 460%, and attempted suicide 1,220%. Okay, so we can just take a look at this survey. Just answer these questions for yourself here. Prior to your 18th birthday, did a parent or other adult in the household often or very often swear at you, insult you, put you down, or humiliate you, or act in a way that made you afraid that you might be physically hurt? Okay, so if it's no, just a 0, and if it's yes, give yourself a 1. That's a 1 for me. Did a parent or other adult in the household often or very often push, grab, slap, or throw something at you, or ever hit you so hard that you had marks or you were injured? Did an adult or person at least 5 years older than you ever touch or fondle you, or have you touched their body in a sexual way, or attempt or actually have oral, anal, or vaginal intercourse with you? No, that never happened, I have to say. Did you often or very often feel that no one in your family loved you, or thought you were important or special, or your family didn't look out for each other, feel close to each other, or support each other? Yep. Did you often or very often feel that you didn't have enough to eat, had to wear dirty clothes, and had no one to protect you, or your parents were too drunk or high to take care of you, or take you to the doctor if you needed? That's about a half. That's about there's a sometimes, but a half. I couldn't give a total 1 on that one. Were your parents ever separated or divorced? Was your mother or stepmother often or very often pushed, grabbed, slapped, or had something thrown at her? Or sometimes, often, or very often kicked, bitten, hit with a fist, or hit with something hard? Or ever repeatedly hit over at least a few minutes or threatened with a gun or knife? Okay, was your mother or stepmother really abused? 8, did you live with anyone who was a problem drinker or alcoholic, or who used street drugs? Was a household member depressed or mentally ill, or did a household member attempt suicide? Did a household member go to prison? And then you add up your answers. Okay. And then finally, we can look at one last thing. Okay, so that information is pretty bad there. Eating is my go-to to escape and numb out when my feelings are too overwhelming. I try to feel into those feelings and be present, but often unsuccessful. And then you go through the shame cycle once you start eating, which makes you feel 100 times worse. I hear that. There is, I would like to really encourage you to come next week, because next week we are going to specifically talk about shame. And we're going to have some exercises for dealing with shame. And you know, it may make you a little more successful when you have those, when you try to sit with those feelings. So come next week. I suffer through the eating thing too. I snack on things a lot, but I'm trying to make the snacking healthier. And one thing I will say I started doing, the other thing I have a problem with is drinking. Shame is huge for you. Right on. I didn't think it was, but it really was once I started reading all this material. It really was. I just was numbing it out and blocking it up and pretending like it wasn't there. Thank you for mentioning all that. Oh, that gave me permission to let it all up. Yeah, come next week. Come next week. That's going to be good stuff next week. Okay, so with a high ACEs score, it's important to know, it's important to know, but it's not the only thing. It's not the only measure of your health outcomes. Other researchers have focused on the role of positive things in childhood that may have offered resilience against traumatic events. So, answer these questions for your level of resilience. And I believe my mother loved me when I was little. And they had some definitely true, probably true, not sure, probably not true, definitely not true. So it ranges from definitely true to definitely not true. So just see how many of these you circled definitely true, okay? I believe my mother loved me when I was little. I believe that my father loved me when I was little. When I was little, other people helped my mother and father take care of me, and they seemed to love me. I've heard that when I was an infant, someone in my family enjoyed playing with me, and I enjoyed it too. When I was a child, there were relatives in my family who made me feel better if I was sad or worried. When I was a child, neighbors or my friends' parents seemed to like me. When I was a child, teachers, coaches, youth leaders, or ministers were there to help me. Well, that was big for me. I had a lot of teachers who helped me. Someone in my family cared about how I was doing in school. My family, neighbors, and friends talked often about making our lives better. We had rules in our house and were expected to keep them. When I felt really bad, I could almost always find someone I trusted to talk to. Whew. Unfortunately, that was not the case for me. As a youth, actually, there was someone I trusted, me. I could find me. There was one person at least. There you go. As a youth, people, I guess there was God too, technically. Or maybe there was Tori Amos. There was my Tori Amos CD, so there you go. As a youth, people noticed I was capable and could get things done. Well, that was true. That was a big one, definitely for me. I was independent and a go-getter. I believe that life is what you make it. Okay, so those are just some ideas of things you may have believed in that might have helped you to get through your childhood. So it's just, since we went through so much time looking at the rough stuff, it's important to take a look at the helpful stuff too, okay? Okay, so before we say anything, just give yourself a huge pat on the back for sitting through all this information. Okay, that's not easy. That is not easy. Okay. Does anybody have anything they want to say, address, bring up, anything at all? Anything at all? Okay, this stuff's not easy to touch into. And so many of us struggle with these things and got no resources for a long time. So if you, whatever you're feeling, just honor whatever that is, okay? That's radical acceptance. You know, you can share this worksheet with a friend. Find other people who are going through the same problem. Give them this information. Practice the idea of this being a worksheet is also so you can practice these exercises. So that inner baby exercise, you can practice. You know, if it made you feel better in any way, just try it again. You know, and then feel free to try all the other exercises in this book. Or feel free to come to these classes, and then we can work on all this stuff together. Okay? Okay. So like I always say, thank you all so much for coming. Good luck with your social emotional health. Only you can look after your own emotions. Only you can take care of your own feelings. No one else can do it for you. Okay, so good luck. Okay, and if you're interested, please come next week. Okay. All right, everybody. Have a nice week. Have a nice weekend. Good luck with your COVID reality. You're very welcome. Oh, I struggle with desperately wanting to connect with people, but unable to be my authentic self. And also, thank you. Yes. So don't bother connecting with people. Don't bother. People, so many people just won't even wear a mask, okay? Don't bother connecting with people. Just connect with you. Get good at connecting with you, and people will come on their own. That's where I'm at. Yeah. All right, have a wonderful evening. Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.